Listen to the Sports Court. I am Gregory Beatty in the building tonight on this rainy evening. Game 3 evening of the World Series, Houston Astros and the Philadelphia Phillies. Series tied at 1-1. Again, you listen to the Sports Court, the show where we keep it 100% of the time. Let me turn my phone down right quick. But, hey, glad to be here. First of all, I want to send my condolences to the family of the wonderful rapper Takeoff of the Migos, who lost his life in Houston allegedly over a dice game, fatally shot last night. I want to send my condolences on behalf of the Sports Court and Grade A Media. My condolences to Takeoff, to the family of Takeoff of the Migos. What a sad situation right there. Just too many instances of these young rappers and these young men losing their lives over stupidity. So don't really know the full details up to this point. But again, heartfelt, sincere condolences to the family of Takeoff, formerly of the Migos. But again, hold on for a second while I actually share this page again. Share this. You listen to the Sports Court. Let me get this going right here. Just hold tight for a second, please. On this rainy, still beautiful out there. But got a lot going. Got a lot going in the sports world for sure. Again, like I said, the Astros will be willing and dealing tonight after being rained out last night. So that's going to push everything back a day. Going to give a lot of these pitchers some extra rest. So I think it bodes well for both teams, actually. I think it bodes well for both teams. So I don't think one team decidedly has an advantage in this situation. I think, again, if you look at Verlander will be pushed back. He will get an extra day of rest, being 39 years old. You saw what happened to him in Game 1, got off to that quick 5-0 lead. The Astros did, giving him that quick 5-0 lead. And, of course, JT Realmuto hit a 2-run double and a go-ahead homer to bring that within 2 runs. They ultimately tied the game up. In that Game 1, the Astros bullpen could not hold it down, and bam, there it is. So the Phillies take Game 1, 6-5. Then the Astros come back, and then if you look at it, Kyle Tucker, he got out the gates quick and early in that game. 2 home runs. You talk about Kyle Tucker, you're talking about a guy who's going to sign for big money after the season. Congratulations to him as well, just winning a Golden Glove in right field. Golden Glove winner. And then also, if you look at Jeremy Pena, the first rookie to win a Golden Glove at shortstop. So congratulations to him as well. But, hey, Kyle Tucker, with that sweet swing of his, I hear somebody says it kind of looks like Ted Williams. You all know Ted Williams, one of the greatest hitters to ever do it. It does kind of put me in the mind of Ted Williams. But, of course, I am not going to sit in here and put Kyle Tucker on Ted Williams' level just yet. But he did have 30 home runs this year. He did have over 100 RBIs for a team that had the best record in the American League, and they're playing in the World Series. So, again, congratulations to him for getting that Golden Glove. And so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens moving forward in this series. Now, of course, now the Astros, again, Kyle Tucker, 2 bombs off Aaron Nola, both in the second and third innings, to really give the Astros that cushion. Verlander could not hold it. Got roughed up after a minute. Then the bullpen could not hold it down as well. But again, that happens in the playoffs. And you never know because, again, these teams can scout and you're playing against better competition. So like I've always said, like I've said in here the last couple of times I've been in here when we were talking about baseball, is no matter how good you do in the regular season as a pitcher. Now, of course, you have pitchers over the years that's been dominant both in the regular season and in the playoffs. And make no mistake about it, Justin Verlander, we're talking about one of Roger Clemens, I think, was the last pitcher to do it. He's a guy that's pitched in 3 different decades, pitched in the World Series in 3 different decades. Skrillarilla Montana's in the building, in there tearing up shit. What's going on, Skrillarilla? Hey, man, order some Papados, man, on me, man, DoorDash. Hey, you and Jody, get what y'all want. Give me some chicken strips. Give me some chicken strips and some fries, even though I'm not a big seafood eater, but I have a taste for some of those chicken strips from Papados. That's right. I'm not a big seafood eater. But, hey, glad to be here. Like I said, the Astros, let's see if they get it done tonight. Now, of course, they tied it up in Game 2. They did what they had to do in Game 2. Hey, but going back to Game 1 right quick, again, the score remained tied until the bottom of the 9th when Jose Altuve singled. He singled and stole a base to put himself in scoring position. But Nick Castellanos saved the day for the Philadelphia Phillies. And we're talking about when he made that big-time catch, which ultimately sent that game to extra innings. And then, of course, JT Realmuto, the catcher for the Philadelphia Phillies, a very athletic catcher, I might add, who can do it all. He can throw you out if you try to steal. He can hit the homer. He can hit for average. And he can actually steal bases himself. So you're talking about an athletic JT Realmuto. Had a big-time Game 1. But that Realmuto homer was something that actually secured the victory for the Philadelphia Phillies in that Game 1. And I'm sure the Astros fans were shocked. And I hadn't been in here since the Phillies actually made it to the World Series. And you all know the Astros are my team, my number 1 team. Make no mistake about that. It's the Astros. I want Dusty Baker to get that ring. But y'all know who my favorite player is. It's Bryce Harper. So I don't want to sit there and say win-win, but win-win. Hey, because like I said, at the end of the day, it's all about those chips. So the Phillies, they're a team that got hot toward the end of the season, got hot in the playoffs more so than anything, made it to the playoffs by getting hot at the end of the season or just being able to stave off some competition that was vying for that third spot. Of course, they wouldn't have made it if this would have been years past because they were the 3rd seed, and this is the first year that they're actually taking that 3rd seed, that third wild card team. So they made it to the wild card. You see what they did in the wild card against St. Louis, and ultimately here they are in the World Series, and they're clicking on all cylinders. The same thing the Braves did last year, a team who they ousted. The same thing the Braves did last year, who they ousted in the division series. Was it the division series? Whatever the case. The Phillies made it to the World Series on being hot, gelling at the right time, getting timely pitching from Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, and here they are. So you have the Phillies and my favorite player, Bryce Harper, in the World Series, but Dusty has to get that first ring. Now, that game is tonight at 7 o'clock, 7:03, but you can turn the volume down on that, and you can watch the sports court until I get ready to get out of here. And hopefully the Astros go into Philly tonight and they handle their business. But again, they're playing against a team who's feeling no pressure at the moment, other than the fact they want a World Series ring just as much as the Astros do. But I say feeling no pressure in the sense that the Astros are the team that everyone's expected to be in this position. Everyone expects the Astros. They think the Astros, most people think the Astros are going to handle the Phillies. A lot of people thought it was going to be a sweep coming into the series, but obviously that's not the case now with it being tied 1-1, because the Astros were able to get that Game 2 victory, got out the gates early in Game 2 with that. They responded by lacing 3 doubles and scoring 2 runs in the first 4 pitches they saw from Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler's a great pitcher. Him, Aaron Nola. So they were actually able to get to Nola as well, but the Phillies had more. The Phillies were able to get to the Astros pitching, and Verlander even more so. Again, Verlander will have an extra day's rest, so that arm should be very lively if he pitches in maybe Game 5, I think it is now. And again, if you have who do you have going tonight? It was supposed to be Syndergaard going against McCullers. McCullers is set to take the mound for the Astros. Didn't do so well the last time he pitched, But we all know that he can turn it up at any given time. He has that experience. And so that's what we expect from Lance McCullers tonight, to go out there and pitch a gem. Give it to the bullpen, and hopefully the bullpen will do a better job of holding it down this time. But, again, in Game 2, the Astros wound up scoring 3 in the first, then added 2 more on the Bregman's homer in the 5th. And that was all they needed, winning that game 5-2. I was actually out of town at my cousin Spook Baby's 60th birthday party. I call him Spook Baby because his birthday is on Halloween, actually. But he had the party on Saturday in J-Town, Jasper. So had fun with that. Got a chance to see a lot of family, lot of friends and family, and had a blast. But back in effect, back in the building, the sports court, the show where we keep it 100% of the time. And real quick, you got a lot going on in the sports world, so we'll see what the Astros do. I'm really not going to rehash too much of those first 2 games, other than the fact that it's tied up 1-1. The Astros lost Game 1 6-5, won Game 2 5-2. Now you have McCullers going against Suarez. Suarez is a tough pitcher, a lefty, and so the Astros are going to have their work cut out for them. But, of course, they have the bats to do damage. They're a very good road team with a lot of experience, and I'm sure they're going to bring that experience and that know-how to Philly tonight. And hopefully the Astros get out early and often, and they put their foot on the Phillies' neck. Again, I'm a Bryce Harper fan, and if he gets his ring, I ain't tripping in the sense that he got his ring, but make no mistake about it, I'm pulling for the Astros. But like I said, this is a situation, I say all that to say this. This is a situation where I could actually watch the game, because these days it's kind of really hard for me to watch baseball, the team that I really enjoy watching, to watch pitch for pitch, inning for inning, and especially when the pitchers get in trouble, when they're on the defensive side. Usually a lot of times when that happens, I'm like, I'll turn the channel and be like, hey, let me know when y'all get back up to bat, so where you can control your own destiny again, and where you can put runs on the board, because ultimately that's what it takes to win the ball games, is score runs. But again, I want Dusty to get that first ring. So like I said, so now I can kind of watch the game in peace, because like I said, it's pretty much a win-win. But make no mistake about it, I want Dusty to get that first ring. But if B-Harp got his first ring, I wouldn't be tripping. And I'm just the show where we keep it 100% of the time. And so I'll check in on the Stros. I have my phone booted and ready this time. I'll definitely be checking in on the Stros as the show wanes on. And I don't know if I'm going to be here for a full 2 hours. Just might. Sometimes I say that, and next thing you know, when I leave out of here 2 hours later, I still have some meat on the bone, that things that I could have covered that I didn't cover. But so really looking forward to that. And, of course, the NFL trade deadline, a lot of NFL talk as well. The NFL trade deadline was today, and we could talk about some of that. I can talk about some of that later on in the show, about some trades that went down, some very interesting moves that went down, some nice young players that's getting moved and getting swapped. I mean, if you look at what Christian McCaffrey, how he's paying off for the 49ers right now, I know my cousin Darryl loves that. He's already paying dividends. You see his dual threat ability and what he was able to do this past weekend against the Rams. The Rams, you're talking about a team who's been very disappointing this year. I think Matthew Stafford is done. I don't think that elbow is right, but he doesn't have the requisite pieces around him. No big playability around him. Now Cooper Kupp is injured. They say he may play this weekend. I don't know, but from listening to the media, before I knew he had an injured ankle, when I was just listening to all the fodder before actually knowing what had happened, hell, I thought he was out for the season. As big a deal as that was, the way they made it seem. But of course, he's their only big play threat at this point, and they are the defending champs. So I get that. But so we'll talk about some of the trades that went down. And again, Christian McCaffrey already paying dividends. And of course, the Nets, they fired Steve Nash. Today. So he is out as the Brooklyn Nets head coach. And you know what? That's interesting. Now, you're talking about a guy one of the best. You're talking about one of the best. And, of course, the college football rankings, which they'll probably have those in the next 15 to 20 minutes, and I'll see where my Buckeyes stack up. But it doesn't really matter because they're going to have to win out anyway. Did their thing against Penn State this past weekend. I'll talk about that in a little bit here. And, of course, you had a big game this weekend, Georgia and Tennessee. Look forward to that one. That's going to be a barn burner in Athens, the home of Herschel Walker. But don't get me started on him. But the home of the great former Bulldog Herschel Walker. But so talk a little college football and, of course, NFL, like I said. But Steve Nash ousted as coach for the Brooklyn Nets. And I don't really know how to feel about that, to be honest with you. Obviously, he was not put in the best position to succeed. Now, I definitely will say that. And, of course, Kyrie is – now, he's come under fire for making some social media posts linking to a film that is considered anti-Semitic. But, hey, what's new with Kyrie Irving? I mean, it's not surprising. He's a clown. And I said that I made a note to myself that I was not going to come on this show this season, this basketball season, and really degrade Kyrie Irving. Tremendous player. And maybe a great person. Obviously, his teammates love him. But I think he has a lot of them hoodwinked, and I'm not going to go back into all that. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about Kyrie Irving and his actions and the things that he's done to really put the Nets in the situation that they're in right now. But since Steve Nash has been fired today, of course I have to bring his name up because I mean, I don't know if Steve Nash probably figured out also that this is just a job that's not best for him. That's not best for – hey, the Nets, like I've said all along, overrated. Roster is overrated. They're not going anywhere. I was looking at their box score the other day. Everyone's talking about all this talent that the Nets have. Now, if anybody should be fired, maybe Sean Marks should be fired. I mean, you had a nice, young, promising team when you had Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, you got Harris, you had but you had a nice young roster, but you want to some degree, I can understand what he was trying to do. He wanted to go for the gusto right then. He wanted to try to jump on Kevin Durant's bandwagon and Kyrie Irving to establish stars and see if you can get that ring and see if you can bring a championship to the city of New York, to the city of Brooklyn. Obviously, that has been a debacle, and I looked at the roster, I looked at the box score. I don't see where that talent. I mean, you look at Ben Simmons, he's a joke. I mean, here's a guy who not only can't shoot, is not even willing to try to get better. And the team is horrible on the defensive side. Now, if you want to attribute that to Steve Nash, okay. But you have to remember the first season Steve Nash led the Nets to a 48-24 record in his first season, 2021, before losing to the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. And you have to remember, James Harden had a hurt hamstring. If Kevin Durant's foot wouldn't have been on the line, they probably would have ended up advancing in that series. But you had Kyrie Irving, who was still being Kyrie Irving, not a winning player. I don't want to hear what he did in Cleveland with LeBron James. That was LeBron James. Yeah, he hit a big shot, but the guy is not a chemistry builder. And in my opinion, it helped tear down the Nets. And I don't think Steve Nash, now we can say that he's not the best coach for this team because he doesn't hold those guys accountable. But who do you think, okay, now they're talking about bringing in Ime Udoka, who has his own fish to fry, who has his own set of issues, being ousted by the Boston Celtics, being suspended by the Boston Celtics. So the reports are that hiring for the Nets is imminent with Ime Udoka. Now, obviously, the Nets feel like that Ime Udoka, we saw what he was able to do with the Celtics last year, and they got off to a shaky start, but obviously they got things in order, they got things in gear, and had the best defense in the league. But you had the talent to have that defense. You have the talent to do those things. You had a dog in Marcus Smart. Ben Simmons is supposed to be that guy for Brooklyn, but I don't know if he is right now. I don't know if he is. We know he's nothing on the offensive side of the ball. But Steve Nash, in my opinion, was never put in a position to succeed. You had Kyrie Irving, who opted not to get vaccinated last season, just disrupted that entire team as far as their aspirations and what they wanted to do, what they wanted to accomplish as a team. I'm talking about just last season, in my opinion, and I'll be honest with you, and this is no hate on Kyrie, because the more I talk about Kyrie, I kind of feel like I'm hating on the guy. Again, he may be a cool dude, but he just comes across as real selfish to me. And I said it, and I said it again, and I'll say it again. And like I said, I had no intentions of really talking about that guy this year in those regards, other than his play on the court, which has been good this season. But they're still 2-5 because he doesn't make anybody better. But last season, you put the team at a disadvantage because you're not vaccinated, which is your choice, which is his choice. I get it. But and the team they were never able to gel as a team. Kevin Durant was a one-man wrecking crew. You see James Harden, he wanted out of there. So if you look at it, and then you had injuries. You had Curry, Seth Curry, Steph's brother, injured a lot of the season. I think he's injured now, if I'm not mistaken. You had Joe Harris, injured. I mean, so what was Steve Nash really supposed to do? Again, you don't really have anybody over there. I mean, if you look at Sean Marks, who have you put around him? Of course, you go out and get Ben Simmons thinking he's going to be that defensive juggernaut, but he's not going to score the ball for you. He hasn't been a defensive juggernaut, and he hasn't been that third wheel to accompany a Kyrie Irving that's playing full-time now, or Kevin Durant, because the guy doesn't want to shoot. So my whole point is, if you look at that roster, they're very overrated, and they don't have the talent to be a good team. I don't know what Ime Udoka is going to be able to do for this team, to be honest with you. Maybe, now, of course, you can say, okay, defense is about grit. It's about want to, and you really didn't see the Nets really trying to play defense. Okay, maybe that could be the case. Now, we'll see if Ime Udoka, if he holds these guys accountable and they have more fire on the defensive end. But I don't necessarily think it was that. Again, last season, I don't think now this season is still early. It's still young. They're coming off a victory. And Nash may not be the guy for the job, because he's a guy that's never been noted for his defense. He played on the team in the Phoenix Suns that was never noted for their defense when he played under D'Antoni, when he played under Mike D'Antoni. So he didn't come in with the defensive mindset. But Kevin Durant, all these guys wanted him at first. Then all of a sudden, he's not the right guy for the job. But again, I don't think he was put in the best position to succeed. I told you his record the first season, 48-24, before losing to the Bucks. And then last season, which I just highlighted, I mean, come on now. What's the guy supposed to do in a situation like that? Riddle with injuries, three-point shooter, Joe Harris out. I mean, I can go on and on and on. James Harden, he was so fed up with the Kyrie Irving situation and the situation with the Nets not being able to develop that chemistry in jail, he wanted out. Ultimately, ending up in Philly. So then you take this season, you have Ben Simmons, a guy you bring over, and everyone, he's supposed to be the third cog, and he's going to do this and do that. The guy won't even shoot. He's horrible. And at this point, he is what he is, and I don't think he's going to get any better on the offensive end unless he changes his mindset and at least starts attacking the basket. But he doesn't want to attack the basket because he's scared he's going to get fouled, and he doesn't want to get fouled because he feels he can't make the free throws. So in my opinion, he's weak. I think Ben Simmons is weak mentally, and the Nets, in my opinion, I don't care if you have Ime Udoka. I don't care if you hire Phil Jackson. I don't care if you hire Larry Brown. I don't care if you hire Red Auerbach or whoever you bring from the dead. The Nets are overrated. You remember when I said during last season, the Nets ain't going to do shit. And they're not. And they're not going to do a damn thing. And you can print that clear from here to Japan. The Nets are not going to do nothing. And I love Kevin Durant. But that sidekick of his, I'm not crazy about. because he just doesn't elevate the play of everybody else. You look at this season, 2-5. I know it's early, and I'm not putting all this on Kyrie. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm putting last season on Kyrie. I am. And I'm putting a lot of it on Kevin Durant for allowing that BS to happen. And I'll say that. But for allowing it to a degree. Of course, Kyrie is a grown man, and he's going to make his own decisions, so Kevin Durant can't do anything about that. But I just don't think – I think he should have been more forceful in some of his criticism of Kyrie. I really do. And I'm not saying go say something to the media that you won't say to Kyrie. Put him aside. Talk to him. Be like, hey, man, no. I didn't come here for this. But, again, I don't want to get too much into that because we've talked about that ad nauseum about what happened last season. Steve Nash is out. And they just did not feel that he was the right guy for the job. But, again, you look at Sean Marks. And, of course, in the wake of the Kyrie situation now with these anti-Semitic tweets that he's put out that he's doubled down on, this dude is a clown, man. And you look at that, and I think the Nets are trying to save face, and they're using Steve Nash as a scapegoat. I really do. Now, again, we'll see. If Ime comes in there and Kevin Durant and all these guys, and he's able to rein in Kyrie to a degree to where he's playing team basketball and he's not alienating people or alienating the team at some point in the season, and they're buying in on the defense side of the ball as far as the effort. Now, that's what I want to see, if the effort is going to change on the defense side of the ball, because that's what obviously the Nets did not like. The Nets front office, obviously they did not like the effort that the Nets were showing on the defense side of the ball. But again, I'll say it like this. You're soft in the middle. You don't have a shot blocker. I mean, you can have all the want-to in the world, and I'm the first to say that a lot of times defense is predicated on want-to and tenacity and energy. I'm the first to say that. I promise I am. But at the same time, you have to have some talent. You have to have guys that can move their feet. So we'll see what Ime Udoka, if they ultimately hire him, we'll see what they do in that regard. But the Nets, they're letting Kyrie do his thing, and in wake of all the pushback and all the vitriol that he's received from these tweets that he's doubled down on. And again, I'm all about somebody being an individual. And, I know a lot of people probably think it's cute that he's his own guy but come on, man. Some of the things this guy does is just uncalled for, in my opinion, as far as trying to build team camaraderie and build team chemistry. I'm all about being an individual and having your own voice and being unique in that sense where you beat to your own drum. Trust me, I am. But when you make the comments you do and you double down on a serious matter like this, on these anti-Semitic tweets, which is discrimination against Jews, and the Brooklyn Nets do nothing about it, the Brooklyn Nets need to be held accountable. He needs to be held accountable for his actions, maybe a suspension or whatever. I don't know. And I don't know what the Nets, maybe this is a last-ditch effort to try to salvage the season just because Sean Marks, and I don't think they want to look like the experiment was a failure. So now it's like, okay, we're 7 games in, and Steve Nash, we're going to make him the scapegoat to a degree. We're going to try to we're not going to punish Kyrie, at least as of yet, and we're going to overshadow what Kyrie is doing and what he's done as of late. We're going to overshadow that, and we're just going to go ahead and fire Steve Nash right now so we can overshadow. Hopefully that would diffuse a lot of this very, very, very serious stuff that Kyrie has brought, the attention that he's brought to the organization. Maybe if we fire Steve Nash, maybe that would take some of the I don't want to say pressure. Maybe that would take some of the tension off of the Kyrie situation. It's not going to happen. So whether or not he's there next year or not, obviously they're trying to salvage the season. They're trying to get something out of this Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant experiment. And they're going to see what they can do. They're going to see what happens the remainder of the season. But I'm here to tell you, the Nets are going nowhere fast. They're going to put up their numbers. Kevin Durant, he's going to put up his 30, 35. Kyrie occasionally is going to put up his 25 to 30. Then occasionally he's going to have his game where he goes, where he does nothing, so to speak. But we'll see. We will see. But so they decided to blow up the young team a few years ago for this. Now they're trying to get something out of it. And they're hoping for a championship, obviously. Obviously, they're not trying to get something. The something they're trying to acquire is a championship. And I know it's a lot of Brooklyn Nets fans out there. I know it's a lot of people who have all this hope for the Brooklyn Nets because they have KD and the wonderful talent of Kyrie Irving. As long as Kyrie Irving is on that team, the Brooklyn Nets are going nowhere. And you heard it here first. And that's right, I said it. You heard it here first. They're not. And it's not too much other basketball news other than the Rockets, and again, you listen to the Sports Court. I'm Gregory Beatty, and the Rockets shouldn't be this bad right now. The Rockets should not be this bad. 1-7. I know a lot of people sit here and say, well, maybe they want more draft pick. Unless they can get Victor Wembanyama, the 7'4" guy from France, unless you can assure yourself you're going to get it. With the talent that this team has, Jalen Green has been struggling so far this year with his shot. KPJ, Kevin Porter Jr., he's playing the best basketball out of any of those guys right now. Of course, I still think Jalen Green is going to be special, and he's put up some numbers, but he's been struggling with his shot. But the defense, Steven Silas, I root for the young brother. I really do. Now, we're talking about if we're going to hold Steve Nash accountable, and I know that's two different scenarios there. One team is more experienced and has more veterans, but enough of these excuses about the Rockets being that young. They're 2 or 3 years into it. Jalen Green is in his second year. But Alperen Sengun has been playing okay. Jabari Smith. I think the coaching staff has to do a better job, a more creative job of getting him easy shots. He's been struggling because he hasn't been getting shots at his desired spots on the floor. The defense is atrocious. The defense for the Rockets is atrocious. And that's what I say about Steven Silas about I don't know how long he's going to last. Now, are they going to go through the rest of this season with the experiment of, okay, let them build together and let them gel together? But I'll say the same thing I said last year as far as Steven Silas. And again, I wish the brother well. But at the same time, when you have this talent on this team, this young talent, they should be better by now. And I don't see any improvement on the defensive side of the ball. The main thing I was saying last season, and me and Eddie was in here talking about it, and he's tied up at work right now. He has a crazy schedule, and sometimes he works nights. He's on call, and so he's actually at work right now as we speak. I could have sat it out and waited till next week. I said, no, I'm going to go on in, man. We missed last week. I'm going to go on in and do some things. The Sports Court, the show where we keep it 100% of the time. But the same thing I was saying last season, what I kept harping on was, where is the intensity on the defense side of the ball? You can be inexperienced all you want. If you have young legs like that, if you're that young and you'd have those fresh young legs, why? Where's the energy? Where's the want to on the defense side of the ball? Where's the attention to detail? Where is Steven Silas holding these guys accountable and sitting their ass on the bench if they're not out there playing defense? It is unbelievable the way these guys play defense. And it shouldn't be like this. They're 1-7. You're talking about the Rockets 1-7, and I hear people making these excuses for the Rockets like, oh, give them to next year, Look at the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio Spurs, who everybody thought was probably going to be bottom dwellers in the NBA. But that goes to show you what coaching does for you. They're just as young as Rockets with not as much talent. But you know what they have? They have a Hall of Fame coach in Greg Popovich, probably the best coach of all time. They have a Hall of Fame coach who holds these guys accountable. And every one of those guys, to a man, know when they step foot on that floor, they better to they better acquiesce to what the coach demands from them. And that's hustle, and that's attention to detail, and that's playing the game the right way. And in my opinion, the Rockets just don't do it. So as far as Steven Silas, I mean, man, I would look, but at the same time, I want to see this team with the best coach possible for them. And to be honest with you, I don't think Steven Silas is that guy. Because I keep harkening back. He's not innovative, not creative on the offensive side. They play one-on-one basketball. Your turn, my turn. Your turn, my turn. No team chemistry. Nobody's connected on the string. I mean, and again, and I'm going to say it one last time before I move on from the Rockets. No intensity or attention to detail on the defensive side of the ball. And there's no excuse for that for a young team. If you're a team that young, the first thing you ought to be doing is hustling on the defensive side of the ball, at least giving yourself a chance to be in the game, no matter what inexperience you may have as far as gelling as an offensive scheme or whatever you may have. But it has to be in the heart. It has to be in the heart. And I just don't see those Rockets players playing with that heart on the defense side of the ball. You have Jayshawn Tate, who's a defensive mindset type of guy. And maybe he should set the tone even more. But you have to have these guys fall in line. And I just don't see where Steven Silas does that. Again, I harken back to Popovich. Popovich could easily be – everybody said he's going to tank for Victor Wembanyama. Oh, the 7'4", and you're talking about, hey, this dude from France, 7'4", who can do it all. I'm talking about can do it all. The guy, he plays like Kevin Durant. And everybody talks about how my damn pad at. Everybody talks about how Kevin Durant, 7-footer that can do all that. This guy's 7'4". Think about Ralph Sampson, 7'4". I remember a Sports Illustrated article back in the day that I had as a kid when the first time I heard about Ralph Sampson. 7'4" and still growing. I don't think he ever grew past 7'4", but I remember that article. And I'll tell you like this, man. He was a center. This guy is a guard, and he can handle the rock. He can shoot the three. He can take you off the dribble. Tremendous shot blocker. I mean, excuse me. The guy can do it all. So everybody thought the Spurs are going to be tanking for him. Popovich like, Now, I don't know what happens as the season goes on. Of course, the NBA has to watch out for all these teams that's going to be tanking for that guy. You're talking about a once-in-a-generation type player right here. You're talking about a guy that's coveted probably on the same level or just a tad bit below, or they say pretty much on the same level as LeBron James. The last guy to be coveted like that was LeBron James. 7'4" guard. Think about that. 7'4", and he's tough and can do it all. I mean, so if the Rockets can get him, that's a different story. But come on, man. I mean, the Rockets should not be that bad. I mean, you look at some of the early team. I mean, the Clippers. The Clippers have been disappointing. Kawhi Leonard. You look at him. I think he has an arthritic knee. So you all just get ready for that. I think he's going to miss another game. Now, they beat the Rockets last night, 95-93. I think he has an arthritic knee. I really do. I really think he has that arthritic knee, and that's probably something that's probably going to hinder him for the rest of this season and beyond. I mean, so I don't know if you're going to get the same Kawhi Leonard that you're used to seeing. If that knee is like they say it is as far as stiffening up. Now, again, he's a year removed. Maybe as time grows on, maybe he actually gets healthy, you know, and maybe that knee gets better. But because I had an ACL, and I'm going to tell you right now, sometimes it's some people that can come back from ACL injuries like that, and they never have any problems from the ACL. I mean, you get full flexibility. It doesn't stiffen up or anything like that. You know, my knee, on the other hand, never, I mean, even though I played after that and could still do everything I could do before I had the knee injury, it would puff up it will stiffen up every now and then. So it depends. I mean, it depends on the surgery, and it depends on who you are. Some people heal better than others, and Kawhi might be one of those guys where that knee just may be arthritic. So I think that may be a blow to the Clippers' chances. I know a lot of people picked the Clippers to actually do some things this season, but we shall see. We shall see. I don't know what's going to go on with the Clippers. Who else? Not too much other basketball to talk about. I like what Luka is doing for the Mavs right now as far as the numbers. And again, but the Spurs, man, I have to keep going back to the Spurs. The Spurs have been surprising early on. And so the Rockets should not be that bad, at least as far as their intensity is concerned. I will say that. And some college football talk real quick. Of course, my Buckeyes. Did y'all really think I was going to get out of here today without bringing up the Buckeyes demolition of Penn State the other day? I'll be honest, though. I actually was thinking that my Buckeyes were in trouble to some degree. But I also said, we were texting, we were in a group text, and I was saying, because I knew it was going to be tough. And that's good for the Buckeyes. That's good for the Buckeyes too. The prior game against Iowa, Iowa showed some resistance, and the Buckeyes were able to, in the fourth quarter, second half, were able to gain their footing, gain some traction, and they were able to do some things and, of course, ultimately put Iowa away and really show Iowa that they're not even a match for them. So, and then Penn State. I told y'all a few weeks ago, when everybody was talking about, well, the Buckeyes hadn't played anybody, I say, oh, they will. They're going to face some competition. Now, it's not SEC competition yet, but Penn State, they're going to face some competition. Penn State always play the Buckeyes tough at home. But again, I said when we were in that group text, I said when they were down and in the fourth quarter, I said, this is Justin Fields' moment. This is Justin Fields' moment right now. This is Justin Fields' moment right now. This is his Heisman moment. And he may be the leader in the clubhouse as far as the Heisman Trophy is concerned. And then, of course, you have to look at some other players. Hendon Hooker for Tennessee, who threw for, 245 yards and 3 TDs against Kentucky this past weekend. Again, they play Georgia this upcoming weekend, but that's going to be a big game. I'm sure. But the Buckeyes, I said this is his Heisman moment. And what did he do? Led them right down the field. Ultimately, that game ended up being a blowout. And they should have covered the spread, which was 15, and it should have been 44-24. But, of course, the football guys made sure that scrub touchdown was scored at the end by Penn State. Penn State played well, though. They played well. But, again, I like the way the Buckeyes stay with it, and that's what I'm liking this year for my Buckeyes is they're sticking with it even though they face some resistance. The times they face some resistance, they're sticking with it, and they're finding ways to get the job done. They're not hanging their hats, and they're finding ways to get the job done when it matters, and they're letting their talent take over when it's supposed to take over. And so that's what happened. You saw C.J. Stroud, Marvin Harrison Jr., what more do I have to say about him? I mean, the guy, 10 catches for 185 yards? Then you had Travion Henderson, who to be honest with you, I am not as high on Travion Henderson as I was before. I think he does a lot of tipping. I don't think he does a great job. Now, you hear me talk about Bijan Robinson all the time from UT, who I think is a top 10 pick in the league. Travion Henderson, who's only a sophomore. I think Bijan is a junior. Travion ended up the game, with a nice touchdown run. And I mean, he's a nice player, but not as elusive as I would like. He doesn't seem to make something out of nothing like he seems like he could more times than not. But hold on one second. Hey, Skrilla. Did y'all? But like I was saying, about the Buckeyes. But Travion Henderson, he doesn't say. I mean, there's too many times where he's stuff for a 1 yard loss or a 2 yard loss or 2 yard run or 1 yard run when he could be turning nothing into something. If you're a big time elusive back or a big time top 10 back or All American back as he was slated coming into the season, I just think a lot of times he doesn't use his vision and make something out of nothing. And if you're a big time back, you have to be able to do that. The great ones, they're able to do that. Again, I said it again. Bijan Robinson. Look at his 5 yard runs. Sometimes he should be stopped behind the line of scrimmage, but he finds a way to get it done. Sometimes it looks like Travion Henderson running with his eyes closed. And I mean, it really does to me. But I like what they were able to do as far as finishing that game against Penn State and really exploding at the end. And, hey, we have a superstar emerging, and he goes by the name of JT. What's my guy's name? What's my guy's name right here? JT Tuamola. I know his name. And he was a freshman last year, and he was a guy that everyone was looking to come on this year and be that next superstar defensive end. Got off to somewhat of a slow start this season as far as statistical-wise, but now he's found his footing, playing with a great defensive line coach and Larry Johnson. You saw what he did this past weekend. 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, 2 interceptions, and a pick 6. I mean, the guy was all over the field. He's the next superstar defensive end I'm talking about in the likes of Chase Young, the Bosa brothers. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he evolves and how he grows as a player because he's coached by a great defensive line coach. And I like what the Buckeyes – now I'm talking about the Buckeyes offense, but this season I'm liking what I'm seeing from the defense. Again, I'm liking what I'm seeing from the defensive side of the ball because they're not giving up all these big plays. They're more sound on the defensive side of the ball, and it showed again against Penn State. I think they could probably be just a tad bit more stout against the run, but they're better than they were last year because when you play a team like Michigan, who actually beat the Spartans 29-7. And what a sad situation. I think those guys from Michigan who jumped that Michigan State player in the tunnel right there, I mean, they should be reprimanded for that. That was uncalled for, and I agree with Harbaugh in that situation. That can't happen. But at the same time, in a rivalry game like that, I don't know why they have them both coming. I mean, I guess that's just the way that stadium is built right there. I can't remember. I think obviously it is, but in a situation like that, a rivalry game like that, the emotions are going to be sky high. So at the same time, and I'm not blaming the guy for being jumped or something like that. I'm not blaming him for that because it was uncalled for. But at the same time, in a rivalry game, the emotions are high like that, and you have to be careful. I mean, you can't get caught in that situation, but that was so unfortunate right there. But, of course, Blake Corum, 33 carries for 177 yards. And so that's what we're going to have to deal with. I think the Buckeyes have Northwestern coming up this week, and that should be a blowout, I'm hoping. But the next test is going to be, in my opinion, I think Maryland will be somewhat of a test because they pass the ball around. I think to a certain degree, I still think that'll end up being a blowout as well. I just think the Buckeyes are that sound this season on both sides of the football. Too many weapons on both sides of the football. But Blake Corum from Michigan, I mean, he's doing it all. 33 carries for 177 yards and a touchdown. I mean, so that's the team right there. That's why I say you have to make sure you're more stout on the defense. And not only on the defense side of the ball as far as stopping the run, in my opinion, for the Buckeyes to be successful, and I say it again before I move on from them, you're going to have to be more physical in the run game and establish the line of scrimmage in the run game. A lot of times, and I say that about Travion Henderson, about turning something from nothing, but hey, I mean, way too many times it's nothing because you have players in the backfield. So I think the offensive line has to get better, and they have to drive their defenders off the ball and establish the line of scrimmage. You have to control the trenches. And, again, if you don't do that this season against Michigan, because you know what Michigan is going to do, you know Harbaugh is going to come in there. You see Blake Corum 33 carries for 177 yards. Even though they're coming to Columbus, you think he's not going to try to keep the ball away from C.J. Stroud and control the clock? And hopefully the weather won't be bad like it was last season. But you think he's not going to try to hand the ball off and punish the Buckeyes defense and wear them down? And by the same token, the Buckeyes have to be able to stop that, but they also have to be able to punish Michigan in the run game. And that will open up that prolific passing game even more. But a couple of more college games from this past weekend, Ole Miss over A&M. I mean, come on, man. A&M, what are they, 3-5 now? 31-28. I don't know what they're planning on doing with Jimbo Fisher, but it doesn't look good. I'll tell you that. The talent is there on the team, and I'm sure they have another great recruiting class coming in too. But they should be better than that. Georgia, of course, they beat Florida 42-20. Now, you have Georgia and Tennessee this upcoming weekend. The game of the year thus far. Let me see the rankings real quick. Let me see if they have the college football rankings. Just stay tuned. Just stay with me right quick. Got all this damn stuff on my phone. See, this is what I have to do. Let me see. Hold tight. The Sports Court. The show where I keep it 100% of the time. Woof! Hey, check it out. NCAA playoff rankings. I probably said that wrong. AP top 25. Man, what's this? No, I don't want the AP top 25. I don't want the AP top 25. BCS playoff rankings. Huh? Is this right? I see Tennessee ranked number 1 right now, but of course they play Georgia this week. Ohio State ranked number 2. Okay, whatever. They still have to win out, and it all comes down to, I mean, so as long as they're in the top 4, I mean, it's whatever. I mean, just get in the top, just stay in the top 4 for the remainder of the season. Of course, I'm sure, okay, you have Georgia at number 3 right now, and Georgia has a stingy defense even this year. Now, of course, they'll be playing without one of their top players in Nolan Smith. He's out with a pectoral injury. So this upcoming weekend against Tennessee, who I see right here, I guess they have ranked number 1 in the polls, which really doesn't matter at this point. Again, those teams play this weekend, so whoever wins that, they're going to be number 1 anyway. They're going to jump Ohio State. So whoever wins this game is going to be number 1. Ohio State is still going to be number 2. I'm sure Michigan is right there at number 4, and so they're right there. But Georgia and Tennessee is going to be in Athens, and it's going to be a great game. Hendon Hooker and Hyatt, their wide receiver, and that fast-paced Tennessee offense, hey, it's going to be fun to watch against that very sturdy and very athletic and very resistant Georgia defense. But again, they're playing without a pro prospect in Nolan Smith. But you know teams like that. They just reload. I'm sure they have somebody behind him who's been itching to get in there, who's probably a 5-star recruit, who's probably going to be just as good as Nolan Smith. So, of course, it's a big-time loss going into this game because that's your leader right there who can come off the edge, a linebacker, and get you sacks and all this and that. But I don't think it's going to be as much of a problem as a lot of people may think. Now, Tennessee, of course, they're going to be throwing the ball around, and they're going to be using that fast pace and that fast-paced offense to get things done. And so I think Bama plays LSU this week, and kudos to LSU. You're talking about a team who's risen from the dead, and now they're looking like, I think they're ranked in the top 15 in the AP poll. But Brian Kelly has those guys, you know, with all the talent they have over there, with the way they recruit, with the athletics, with the athleticism, with the athletes they have over there, you know they're going to be good for years to come. But they play Bama this week, so we'll see what they're really made of. Bama controls their own destiny, even though they lost to Tennessee. Tennessee is going to be playing even a better defense in Georgia this upcoming week in Athens. But Bama controls their own destiny. If they win out, win the SEC championship, they go. And the SEC may just have 2 teams that go. We'll see how it plays out. But, of course, there are some other conferences as well that we'll see We'll see what transpires. The Big 12, the Pac-12, USC has lost one game. Oregon, I think, has lost one game. So we'll see what happens with that. But really not too much more college football I want to talk, other than really looking forward to this upcoming weekend. And we're looking forward to my Buckeyes smashing Northwestern. Sorry, Will Bud. You know I love you, man. But and Northwestern, and I think Greening went to Northwestern too, if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot of people went to Northwestern. Northwestern, I like the program, but I think the Buckeyes beat up on them this week and add to that 8-0 record and make that 9-0. I think that's what their record is. Yep, 8-0. So they'll be 9-0 after this week. And the Michigan game is looming very, very soon. Very, very soon. But, yeah. And I was talking about going back to the NBA real quick. I hadn't said anything about the Lakers, who finally got off the schneid, and they won their first game. But they're a joke. You're talking about a team with no talent whatsoever. Hold on, let me see this text. Hey, I just talked about it. You tuning in late, C-Ton. I just talked about that Michigan State BS in the tunnel right there. And again, the players should be reprimanded for that. And that was uncalled for. But again, it's a rivalry game. The emotions are high. And I've had times where we've had a rivalry game against Michigan when we've met at the middle of the field and exchanged some words and things of that sort, but nothing out of hand to that degree. So definitely, that should be handled by law enforcement, to tell you the truth. At least that's what Harbaugh says. Nah. The emotions are high. I mean, hey, those players should be reprimanded for that. That was uncalled for. I'm going to stick by that. But again, the emotions are high in that situation, and that's what happens. You have to keep your players out of harm's way, Harbaugh. You have to keep your players out of harm's way, my man, and at least as much as you can. I don't know if it was something he could have done in a situation like that. But talking about the Lakers real quick before we move on to some NFL, talking about the Lakers real quick, and again, the Astros play tonight. I think it's 7 o'clock, 7:03 if I'm not mistaken. But, hey, the Lakers, 1-5. LeBron still playing like LeBron. Westbrook is coming off the bench now. He's been relegated to the bench. We'll see if that helps. But, hey, no breaking news here. No shooters on the team. And so we'll see. Darvin Ham, I don't think his job is in jeopardy, obviously. But he talked about a defensive mindset. You don't have the horses to play defense. But the defensive mindset is what I want to see. Anthony Davis, hit or miss. You never know what you're going to get from him. I mean, he's hurt 1 minute, playing the next minute, playing good 1 minute, not playing good the next minute. And LeBron is really the only steadying force on that team. And the Lakers are done. The Lakers are done. I mean, and of course the Warriors, I can talk about the Warriors and the Warriors kind of right now they're just filling their way out. They actually re-upped with Kuminga, I think, today, and Moses Moody. I think they picked up their options. Of course, they've signed Jordan Poole. They've signed Wiggins. So they're going to be just fine as the season progresses. As the season grows, they're going to be just fine, and they're going to actually be the Warriors that we all know them to be. I think right now they're kind of sleepwalking, and they're kind of just going through a championship hangover, to tell you the truth. And it's still early. I think, 2-2. But the basketball season is still very, very, very early. And, so, hey, as I look at my notes, y'all ever been in school and had a dude in school that the little knucklehead that takes all the notes in class. He has all the notes, but ends up failing the class. I mean, how you fail the class? You got all the damn notes, bro. I'm trying to get the notes from you, but you got an F. I'm talking about a notebook full of notes too. Just in there taking notes. Teacher talking, he just bam, bam, bam. I'm like, cool. I'm going to get the notes from him. And then you look up, he done failed the class. Bro, how in the hell you failed the class, bro? You got notebooks full of notes. You paying attention in class every day. Every single day. But hey, again, the Astros tonight, we'll see what happens in that game. Phillies and the Astros. Suarez against McCullers. Let's go. Let's get it. But as far as the NFL is concerned, nothing else really I want to talk about as far as, Zion. Zion is back in the fold, has already missed a couple of games, but I like what they're going to look like moving forward. I think the Pelicans have a chance to compete. I really do. And Zion, when Zion is on the court, he's putting up numbers, and he's going to continue to do that. Hopefully he just stays healthy, but Zion is a bad boy. But the Texans, I don't have my Texans insider in here today to really break down the Texans, but I break it down. To the tune of Derrick Henry over 200 yards rushing for the 6th time in his career, I might add, but just dominant. I mean, the Texans look terrible on both sides of the ball. I mean, I don't think I've seen a run defense that horrible in a long time. A Lovie Smith-led run defense. And I'm going to tell y'all this again. Anybody who thinks Lovie is going to be here again next year, if they continue to lose like this, you're sadly mistaken. It's not going to happen. And I wish him well. Same thing for Steven Silas. But he gone. I'm going to tell you like that. And the offense was putrid at best. They were not able to get anything done in the run game. Nothing done in the passing game. But that run defense, again, hell, I think I can run for 100 yards on that defense. I mean, just flat out horrible. Brandon Cooks today did not get traded. He wasn't too happy about that. If you look at some of his tweets, he's not too happy about that. But if you think about it, the Texans out here were asking too much during the trade deadline, before the trade deadline. Trade deadline was today. I'll go over a couple of those trades in a second here. But Brandon Cooks was asking too much, or the Texans were asking too much for Brandon Cooks, who's guaranteed $18 million next year. And there's not a team that was willing to pay Brandon Cooks, who's really, a third receiver? Really? I mean, a nice receiver. He's not a number one. You're not going to pay a third receiver who has third receiver caliber skills at this point. He's more of a second or third receiver. You're not going to pay him $18 million. So the Texans were not willing to pick up some of that tab, and the Texans allegedly were asking for too much in return for Brandon Cooks. So Brandon Cooks is not too happy about that. He wanted to get out of Houston more sooner than later. Not so much get out of Houston, but get away from the Texans. I'll say that. But real quick, so the Texans lost to the Titans 17-10. Texans have the Eagles this week. We saw what the Eagles were able to do. So Jalen Hurts is coming back home to Houston. We saw what the Eagles were able to do. The Eagles, woo-wee! Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, that connection, and Jalen Hurts, the way he's dropping these dimes right now, I'm talking about dropping it in the basket. I don't care if it's man coverage. I don't care if it's zone. I don't care what it is. Jalen Hurts is getting the job done, and they're pretty much running the option as well. So you have that threat in the run game. They have a dual threat in Jalen Hurts. The run game, then you have the passing game with A.J. Brown. Jalen Hurts threw for over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. A.J. Brown caught for over 100 yards in receptions, I think for over 160, if I'm not mistaken. And still you have Devontae Smith over there on the other side right there, former Heisman Trophy winner who can get going at any time, and who can take the top off of a defense. So they're loaded. Philadelphia's loaded. But Philadelphia is coming to town, and they're going to beat up on the Texans this upcoming weekend, and they're going to run their record to 8-0. They're 7-0 now. They'll run their record to 8-0 this weekend after they demolish the Texans in Reliance Stadium. And that's just going to happen. But the Eagles are stout on both sides of the ball. I'm talking about, if you look at offensively and defensively, they're the most complete team right now. Make no mistake about that. Now, I'll talk about my Cowboys in a second. I think my Cowboys are going to have something to say about that when the Eagles go to Jerry's world. I think they're going to have something to say about that with Dak Prescott back in the fold, obviously. But in the other games from last weekend, I want to. But the Eagles over the Steelers, 35-13. I mean, hey, man, Jalen Hurts and those guys are playing. They're operating at a very high level right now. So kudos to them, even though I really don't want them operating at that high level because of the Cowboys, of course. But the Giants actually took an L to the Seahawks. And what about Geno Smith? You're talking about Saquon. Saquon, they say, is the leader in the clubhouse. Now, they beat the Giants 27-13 in Seattle, and I love the job that Pete Carroll is doing with that team, a young team. He's built an identity for that team. These players love playing for him. I'm talking about the culture. He's reestablished himself. He's reestablishing the culture for that team after losing. I mean, I'm talking about a championship team, losing all those veteran-laden players who – had voices in the locker room. Richard Sherman, of course, Bobby Wagner. I can go on and on. Of course, Marshawn Lynch is not there. Russell Wilson, who was able to get that victory against Jacksonville this past weekend. But, hey, man, I love what Seattle is doing right now. Seattle is looking good, and they're leading their division. They're leading that division, and they seem like a team that's here to stay because of the way they play on both sides of the ball. And Geno Smith, you think about Geno Smith. When he came out of West Virginia, ballyhooed, second-round pick, actually dropped lower in the draft than people thought he would because they say he really wasn't a chalkboard guy, supposedly, allegedly. They say off the field there were some concerns. But, of course, every time the draft is approaching, of course, all these things come out about these players that help drop a lot of their stock. And that's what happened with Geno Smith. Then he was thrown into the fray. His rookie season with the Jets after Mark Sanchez got hurt in preseason. So he really wasn't ready at that time to take over the helm and really be the quarterback that he's ultimately become at this point because he was young. He was a rookie. And, again, he was thrown into the fire, and it was a learning curve right there. Through a gang of interceptions his rookie year, same thing his second year. Ultimately was regulated to a backup role, learned behind Russell Wilson, learned behind, I said, Mark Sanchez, learned behind Eli Manning. And now you look at him years later and you see the maturity and the hard work. Now that talent is showing through with Geno Smith. And I'm really happy for him, for his stick-to-itness and him being able to overcome some adversity. Remember when he got his jaw broke in the locker room by one of his teammates that ultimately got cut right after that? I can't remember the guy's name, but he got his jaw broke. So he's been through some turbulent times, some learning experiences, but he's learned behind some great players, and he's been under the tutelage of some great coaches and players, again, like I say. And kudos to him for sticking to it, staying the course, never giving up on himself, realizing that he is the guy that they thought he would be when he was drafted out of West Virginia. And now he's showing that in Seattle. Now he's playing with a lot of confidence. You know he has the weapons at his disposal. So he's taking what he's learned over the years. And you get under the tutelage of Pete Carroll, you use the experience and all the mishaps and all the things that have gone awry in your first seasons in the NFL, and he's learned from those experiences. And now, I love his accuracy. I love the way he competes. I love the decision-making. So right now, they say Saquon is the leader in the clubhouse to be comeback player of the year, but Saquon played in 13 games last year. So Geno didn't play last year. So, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer that Geno is even up for MVP, in my opinion. But so Seattle was able to beat the Giants. The Giants are now 6-2. Still a great job what they're doing over there, Brian Dable. But Seattle was able to get that job done over there and at home. And so now they're sitting on top of the division and they're continuing to roll. But again, Geno Smith has weapons at his disposal. You have Tyler Lockett. You have your boy DJ You have Metcalf. And Kenneth Walker III, he may just be the best running back in football, folks. He may just be the best running back in football. I mean, you're talking about a guy now. They lost their starting running back, but you bring in Kenneth Walker, and they actually get better. And so I like what they're able to do. And, again, much credit to Geno Smith for the season he's having, for the way he's matured, for the experience that he's gained over the years and the experience that he's actually applying right now. And that's what I like. That's what I like. I like his composure, and he wasn't as composed early on, of course, but his tenure in the league, being able to sit back, learn from some players, again, and now his composure, his leadership ability, the players like playing for him, his intangibles, he can make every throw on the field. So I love what Geno Smith is doing right now. I really do. Of course, Green Bay, that losing streak stands at 4 games right now. I've always thought Green Bay was overrated. I've been saying that for the last, even those 13 and 3 years, I was saying that Green Bay was overrated. I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers was overrated. Excuse me. Green Bay was overrated. Green Bay was overrated the last few years, in my opinion. They just always have been. And this season, of course, I like Aaron Jones. I like Aaron Rodgers, but they don't have the weapons. They don't have the weapons. And the Bills played a C-level game, especially in the second half, and the Bills still beat them by 10. And they pretty much laid down in the second half. But the Packers have, and I'm not here to pile on the Packers. Again, they don't have the receivers right now. They don't have the weapons, and they just don't have a team that can really compete. I think they probably should run the ball more with Aaron Jones. But again, once they stop the run, you don't have anybody you can throw the ball to. Of course, you don't have Devontae Adams anymore over there. So Aaron Rodgers at this point has really come to the conclusion that this. How much are y'all paying me? All right, I'm good. I won MVP last year. Yeah, I would love another Super Bowl. And no, I'm not about to retire. No, I'm not about to retire. So you can quit that talk. He's not about to retire. But how can I find my way out of here some kind of way? Or maybe next season, some of these receivers will actually come into their own and may start doing better. But I said all that to say this. If you listen to Aaron Rodgers now, as opposed to listening to Aaron Rodgers a few weeks ago, I think Aaron Rodgers has resigned himself to the fact that the pack is whack. Hey, Skrilla, the pack is whack. But hey man, where's the pop? Hey, what? Nothing. Where's the Papados at? The pack is whack, and I think Aaron Rodgers has resigned himself to that fact, and he's looking forward to next season. I think he just wants to stay healthy this year, collect a paycheck, and see what happens after this. But no, he's not about to retire. And Tom Brady, I'm not sure. I still think Tom Brady can get the job done, but they don't have a run game in Tampa. I mean, they've lost, what are they, 3-5 right now? They're losing game after game after game. Terrible run game. Slow. Defense not playing up to their capability. But I think they have the ability to get better. I really do, because, damn, they just won a Super Bowl a couple years ago. I mean, they still have a lot of those players. Now, once they get some of those players back, I think they – but I mean, Julio Jones, that pickup always hurt. That pickup has been a disaster. Godwin will probably get better as the year goes on. Mike Evans, we'll see. But no creativity, no run game to boot, no speed, and it's showing right now. Tom Brady can still make every throw. But they're challenged right now as a team. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they finish off the season. I like what P.J. Walker is doing in Carolina. I mean, I liked him when he was playing in the USFL here in Houston. I like what he's able to do, or what was it, the XFL, one of those leagues. But Carolina may have found their quarterback. I know a lot of people are like, nah, he's not their franchise quarterback. I like P.J. Walker. I hate that for him when DJ Moore took off his helmet the other day in that game against Atlanta, which they ultimately lost 37-34. I hate that. But DJ Moore has to know better right there. I know your emotions are flying high in that situation, but what's the whole point? I don't get it. I mean, you catch a touchdown, why is the first thing you think about to take off your helmet? I mean, I can understand celebrating, but why is taking off your helmet the first thing you think about? I mean, hell, just get up and celebrate, jump on your teammates' back or let them or whatever, but why is taking off your helmet the first thing you think about in that situation? So I hate that. I mean, it's something that he should have known. You have to know the rules. At the same time, the field goal kicker, you have to make that extra point. I know it's moved back 15 yards, but come on. You have to make that. But DJ Moore, you have to be smarter right there. So I hate that for them. I mentioned Christian McCaffrey, his 3 touchdowns, 1 passing, 1 receiving, 1 rushing the football, 94 yards rushing, I think 68 receiving if I'm not mistaken. But he's already paying dividends for Kyle Shanahan and his creative thinking. So Shanahan, I mean, it's almost like Shanahan is playing schoolyard ball and he's drawing up plays in the sand for this guy. I mean, when he's healthy, he's one of the top 2 or 3 backs in the league. So he's already paying dividends in Frisco. Frisco is 4-4 right now. So we'll see how they progress moving forward. And I talked about Green Bay losing to Buffalo. Buffalo is a juggernaut. They picked up Nyheim Hines from the Colts. Today to just add to that backfield. Of course, I think Zach Moss goes to Indianapolis in return, but the rich get richer. I'm talking about Nyheim Hines, a dual threat running back, and you add that to the Bills with Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen. Right now, Buffalo seems like the team to beat. I'm still not going to count out Kansas City. I mean, I hate the Chargers. Are riddled with injuries. So I honestly think now, hopefully they can finish out the season on a high note, and there's still a lot of season left. So they could probably do some things even better than that. But hopefully they can get healthy and they can live up to that potential and actually get into the playoffs and do some things this season. But I'm being honest, I'm already looking at the Chargers as far as next season with Herbert, getting some guys healthy, getting some receivers healthy, and getting some defensive players healthy. I'm already looking at next season, to be honest with you. But I'm not ready to count out KC. I mean, KC had a very underrated pickup, in my opinion, in Kadarius Toney. I mean, you get him healthy, and KC, and and the Bills. The Bills are a juggernaut. I mean, with Von Miller coming off the edge, the Bills right now, if I had to pick a team that's the favorite, and like if I was a betting man, okay, the Bills. But the Chiefs are like right there, and the Chiefs, I still like the Chiefs better than them when they're clicking on all cylinders. But so the Bills are loaded with weapons on both sides of the ball, and they're clicking on all cylinders, even though that second half the other night left a lot to be desired. I just think they took their foot off the gas, so to speak, in my opinion, the other night. But the Chiefs picking up Kadarius Toney, I mean, the rich get richer. We're talking about a first-round talent here. Things didn't pan out with the Giants. Now, but what happens is he can go to KC now, and he can get healthy. He's not counted on to be a number one, which he has somewhat of that pressure on him with the Giants. They wanted him to be a number one, which he has that ability when he's healthy. He's been dealing with some hamstring injuries, but you get him, you let him heal up real good another 3 or 4 weeks, and then you get him acclimated going into the playoffs or going into the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season, and you have another big play receiver or quick twitch receiver who can get in and out of cuts, in and out of breaks, and he can return kicks or punts for you as well. You're talking about a big play threat. I was kind of surprised when the Giants gave up on him, considering that they're lacking with wide receiver depth as it is. That was kind of surprising. Now, of course, he's not a high character guy, allegedly, from what I understand. But hey, again, If you want a choir boy, go to church. And Andy Reid realizes, hey, this guy, we add another first-round talent. See, no one is talking about that pickup for the Chiefs. You add another first-round talented type of wide receiver to what they're already doing, the way they're already starting to gel with Juju Smith-Schuster now coming into his own, feeling comfortable in the offense, feeling comfortable in his role, and the coaching staff really finding ways to get him involved and really utilizing his skill set to the best of their ability. You know Andy Reid is going to scheme it up better than anyone. Mecole Hardman coming into his own. I mean, and you pick up Kadarius Toney and you get him healthy. I mean, come on, man. What are we really talking about here? To go along with the running backs they have, that trio of running backs. So, I mean, what are we really talking about here? Now, I'm going to talk about my Cowboys in a second. Stay tuned. You listen to the Sports Court. I'm Gregory Beatty. The Dolphins 31-27 over the Lions this past weekend. Hey, Tua and the Dolphins, they're legit. They pick up Bradley Chubb today as well to bolster that defense. And you're talking about now, that's kind of surprising that Bradley Chubb, that Denver. So it's almost like Denver saying that they're giving up on the season, even though they just won a game. But it's kind of counterintuitive because you bring in Russell Wilson for all this money, and it's still this early in the season, and you bring in Russell Wilson to actually get you to a Super Bowl. But then you trade away your best defensive player this early in the season after coming off a victory. So that's pretty much saying that you don't think that – are they saying that they don't think that Russell Wilson can actually lead them to the Super Bowl? Or they don't think their head coach, or maybe they made the wrong decision in both of those moves, and let's go ahead and start gunning for the future like right now, because we don't see where this is going to get any better or too much better to where we're on a Super Bowl run. But so the Dolphins pick up Bradley Chubb, and the Dolphins, I'm telling you, hey, Tua, I've always believed in Tua, but now with this scheme under this coaching staff right here, I mean, the Dolphins are legit. And you pick up Bradley Chubb to go with the defense that's been kind of disappointing this season, but they were showing promise last season, and they have the talent over there. They're going to get even more healthier, but now you pair him with the other defensive end they have, Jalen. But, yeah, Bradley Chubb coming off the edge, 26 years old. Now, was that also Denver saying that, hey, we're not going to pay this guy all this money because we don't think he's really going to get that much better, or we think he's probably somewhat injury prone? But whatever the case may be, Denver traded him to the Dolphins, and that's a huge pickup for the Dolphins. You're talking about the Dolphins, a team on the offense side of the ball. I mean, hey, they're finding ways. They're drawing up ways to get their scheme. I'm talking about Kansas City's scheme, Miami's scheme right now. Woo! I'm talking about with Tyreek Hill, who they're paying a lot of money to as well. So they're doing everything they can. They're getting the best out of everything they're doing with the draft picks that they've acquired. And I go on and on. That organization is doing a wonderful job right now. I mean, Miami has a lot to be proud about. The city of Miami, they have a lot to look forward to. But Tua, I'm proud of Tua. I'm proud of Tua. The questions that he's answered thus far during the season, the numbers that he's put up, he's answered every question. He's throwing the ball downfield. But more so than anything, you have a lot of these receivers, the scheme. I mean, you have a lot of these receivers running wide open. Tyreek Hill, what was that, 12 catches for 168 yards the other day. I mean, Jalen Waddle doing this thing. I mean, over 100 yards receiving. And so I thought going into the season, I said to myself, well, those are two, what? Tyreek Hill, 5'8", Jalen Waddle, 5'8". I said, okay, they're going to be nice receivers. You can get the ball too quickly, and they may do some things after the catch, but it's going to be a way to corral them. But I didn't know the offensive scheme was going to be this good, and I didn't know they were going to be running this wide open this often. And so you're talking about that kind of speed with that kind of run after the catch ability. You're getting the ball in their hands, but they're not only getting the ball in their hands on short intermediate passes. I'm talking about post routes, flag routes, crossing routes, comeback routes. Again, the scheme right now for the Dolphins has been nothing short of impressive, and they're scheming up ways to utilize the talent that they've acquired. And so they're legit. Tua passed for over, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns the other day. I mean, so, and he seems like he's back from that concussion. Hopefully he stays healthy. I hated to see him have to miss because of that concussion, but he seems like he's back. He doesn't seem like he's wavering or he's going out there and he's playing ball. And, of course, they're trying to protect him, and they're trying to get the ball out of his hands quickly. But I'm impressed with the Miami Dolphins. I'm very impressed. The Vikings, of course, the Vikings sitting at 6-1. Kind of surprised at the Vikings, but the Vikings, they pick up the tight end from the T.J. Hockenson from Detroit, a damn good tight end. Now they pick up Hockenson, and the Lions get a 2023 second-round pick. Now they traded him in a division. Now that was kind of surprising right there. But you already see what they're doing. They have Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson. Now, of course, Irv Smith is going to be out a while. So you add T.J. Hockenson, who's a very good tight end. I mean, hey, you add him to the mix, and bam. I mean, Minnesota seems like a team that's here to stay, and they seem like a team that's going to be actually competing in that NFC to go to a Super Bowl, even though they have Kirk Cousins at quarterback, who I'm not crazy about, but I don't think he's as bad as a lot of people think he is. But that was a big-time move by them today. I'll say that. Now, going back to Bradley Chubb right quick. Now, the Broncos get running back Chase Edmonds in that deal, 2023 first-round pick, 2023 fourth-round pick, and yada, yada, yada. The Jags acquired Calvin Ridley. I think that was a shrewd move by the Jags to give the disappointing Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion, disappointing. The Jags started out the season with some promise. I think that is all going down the toilet. I think they're going to have another boo-boo season. And, again, lost again this past weekend. But, of course, that's your franchise quarterback. You drafted him number 1. I still believe that I know he can make every throw. Now, sometimes that mental, I have to question his mental, but he's getting coached up good, and I think he's going to improve. And he showed strides from last season, I shall say that. But they started out the year with some promise, and now they seem like they're going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars that we all know. But they picked up Calvin Ridley, who's on suspension right now. He'll be 28 years old when he touches the field again, has number 1 caliber receiving ability. So I think if you have a number 1 caliber receiver to go along with your franchise quarterback, you picked up Christian Kirk last year, who I think is a bit overrated. Either that or they don't use him correctly. But he's more of a number 2. Calvin really has number 1 receiver type ability. You pair that with what Travis Etienne is doing, rushed for over 160 yards this past weekend, rushed for over 100 yards the prior weekend. I mean, Travis Etienne, again, it's almost like they got a first-round draft pick this season, even though he missed last season after being a late first-round draft pick because of a foot injury. So Travis Etienne is doing so well, they traded the other running back, James Robinson. I mean, that just shows how they feel. That just shows what they feel about Travis Etienne, and he's producing right now. So, again, now you add a number 1 receiver to go with that, and Chris Peterson, your guy coaching over there, I want to say Chris Peterson, but, hey, they look good. They don't look good, actually, but they can look good in the future. I will say that. They look good at making that move with Calvin Ridley. I'll say that. The Bears acquired Chase Claypool. I like that move for Justin Fields. The Bears, and I'll talk about the Cowboys. I'll parlay that to go to the Cowboys after this. But Justin Fields, who, of course, Ohio State Buckeye, but I like the growth that he's shown over the last few weeks. I like the way they're utilizing him now. And the Bears are a team that's shown some promise. They showed some fight against the Cowboys, even though ultimately the game ended up being a blowout because the Cowboys are just that good. I mean, make no mistake about that. But they pick up Chase Claypool from Pittsburgh, and they pick up Chase Claypool, and the Steelers get a 2023 second-round pick. See, the Steelers are probably looking at it like the Steelers don't have any problem replacing wide receivers. Of course, you see they pick up George Pickens in the draft, and he's looking like their number one now. He's the guy that's going to be their number one for years to come. Chase Claypool looked like he may be that guy early on in his career. His first season, he's only been in the league a couple years, but his first season looked like he was going to be that guy that was going to be a big – but he's been a bit inconsistent, and a lot of that has to do with the talent and the team around him as far as the lineman and the quarterback play. I will say that. So maybe he gets rejuvenated, but it gives Justin Fields a big-time target with some big-time potential if he can show more consistency and if he can get his head on straight and really hone in to being that number one receiver. I mean, it really gives Justin Fields a weapon to work with. And Chicago has stockpiled a lot of draft picks. The Bears, man, the Bears. Let's see. The Bears trade Roquan Smith to the Ravens. So that's them. Hey, they're continuing to stockpile because what's the use of keeping Roquan Smith when you know your team is going nowhere this season? I mean, you might as well build for the future, and that's exactly what they're going to do. But they pick up a 5th-round pick. They traded Robert Quinn as well. So now they have a 1st, 2 seconds, a 3rd, 2 4s, 2 5ths, a 7th in the 2023 draft. Now, that's the way the general manager Poles is his name. That's what you're supposed to do. If you're gonna not draft a receiver when you first get there, now I see his plan in action. And hopefully, now a lot of people can say all the time. About where they get all these picks and get all that picks. To me, sometimes that's overrated because you can have all the picks in the world. If you're not making the right picks, what does it matter? But at least they have the ability to make some picks. Hopefully, that brass in Chicago, they hit on all those picks. And all these picks that I just told you that they have, hopefully they hit on those. And actually, of course, they need some offensive linemen for Justin Fields. If it wasn't for Justin Fields' scrambling ability the other day, the Cowboys probably would have had about 12 sacks in that game. But Justin Fields being as elusive as he is, and he threw the ball pretty well. I think that was a boneheaded play when he jumped over Michael Parsons instead of tagging him down, and Michael Parsons ultimately took it in for a touchdown, looking like a running back, like I told y'all, looking like a running back. But ultimately, you can have all the picks in the world. If you don't draft right or go through the right vetting process and hit on those picks, hell, you can have 10 draft picks in the first 3 rounds. If they're garbage, they're garbage. So, but they have accumulated those picks. So kudos to them for that. I will say that. But okay, the Browns over the Bengals last night. Of course, the Bengals are playing without our boy Jamar Chase, and it showed last night. And hey, Jacoby Brissett, steady veteran, holding the fort down until Deshaun Watson gets there. And the Browns have a roster. So if they continue to chip away and can get some more victories and get above 500, then they get Deshaun Watson back. I mean, I hear some people saying, well, maybe if they do get Deshaun Watson back, you keep Jacoby Brissett. No. You don't pay Deshaun Watson all that money and keep him on the bench. When Deshaun Watson comes back, he gives you a completely different dynamic and element to that team. Even though he's been out for a while, you insert him into the lineup immediately. But the Bengals are sitting at 4-4 right now, and they didn't look good last night at all. Can't run the ball whatsoever. Burrow running for his life. And so that's that. But the Cowboys, like I was saying about the Bears, the Cowboys look good the other day. The Cowboys look damn good the other day. I'm talking about clicking on both sides of the football. And, again, if Justin Fields wouldn't have been as elusive as he is, they probably would have had 12 sacks. But Tony Pollard, you need to get him the football. 15 carries, over 130-something yards, I think it was, 3 touchdowns. Now, do you start him over Zeke? I don't know. I mean, some people, I say you still start Zeke, but you still get Tony Pollard. You still get Tony Pollard. When he has over 15 carries a game, the Cowboys are like, are great. And it showed again this past weekend. I can't remember the exact numbers, but when he has over 15 carries, get him the football, get him his 15 carries or get him his 15 touches. But I say you get him his 15 carries and you get him some touches out the backfield because he's dynamic. You're talking about a big play waiting to happen. Now, do you start him over Zeke? I mean, you can. I mean, but you're still going to need Zeke. You're still going to need that 1-2 punch. You're still going to need what you get from Zeke. So whether you start Zeke or whatever the case may be, you still got to give both of those guys their touches. They both bring different elements. Of course, Tony Pollard, make no mistake about it, Tony Pollard makes the Cowboys' offense more explosive. But, hey, you don't have to upset the apple cart. I mean, you heard Jerry Jones double down on the fact he loves Ezekiel Elliott. He loves what Zeke brings to the team. He loves the toughness that he brings and the way he can control the clock. He loves what he does in run blocking or in pass blocking, I should say. And so Zeke will probably ultimately end up starting still, but you can best believe they're going to get Tony Pollard on the field more often than not. And you give both of those guys a chance to carry the ball, but Tony Pollard has to get more carries because he just opens up things for this offense. I mean, he makes them that much more dynamic and that much more explosive. And so you have to get him the ball. He can't leave a game. Tony Pollard right now cannot leave a game with 5 carries, 7 carries, 8 carries. You have to get him his 15 carries. Get Zeke his carries. You see Dak comes back 21 for 27, 250 yards, utilizing his legs, accurate, and now he seems like he's getting his groove back. But you keep the run game going with both of those guys, control the clock, then you open things up with Dak Prescott in the passing game. That's what you do. So I don't really care who they start, but I do care that you get Tony Pollard more involved and you get him more touches and more carries because you see what can happen. The guy is a threat to take it to the house from anywhere on the field, period. So yeah, you can start Zeke, former Ohio State Buckeye. You can start him, and I don't care if you don't start him, but you're still gonna have to play him, and you're still gonna have to pay him. And Jerry Jones realizes that too. That hey, I'm paying him a lot of money, and you know Jerry Jones is stubborn. If everybody is saying start Tony Pollard, if all the media is saying start, the only way you're going to get Jerry Jones to start Ezekiel Elliott is if the majority of the media is saying the opposite. So whatever the media is saying, Jerry Jones is going to go against the grain. You know that. Plus he's paying Zeke all this money. But he said as much. Hey, you can utilize both of them. And they're definitely going to get Tony Pollard involved. But Michael Parsons, a beast. I wish he would get more tackles. You look at his stat line sometime, 2 tackles. You know, I mean, with that kind of ability, I know he's an MVP candidate. I know he's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate because what he does on the defense side of the ball as far as rushing the passer, whether he's getting sacks or not, he's putting pressure on the quarterback. He's enabling the Cowboys' defense to do what they do best. He's opening up things for other players. So statistics don't tell the whole story for Michael Parsons. He's that special of a player to where his presence on the field just makes everybody, just energizes everybody on that defense. And not only that defense, that team. But I look at the stat line sometime and I just wish he would have more tackles. Just get in on more tackles, you know, running the football. I mean, when teams are running the football, just be a little more aggressive in that regard. But again, I mean, the guy's a defensive MVP candidate. But hey, now you have Dak back. So there's no excuses. The offensive line, and I said it before the season, the offensive line, no matter who they have playing, always plays well. They always play well. Damn, time flies when you're having fun. I didn't realize it was this late. But they always play well. And so the Cowboys, I guess I can look forward real quick to next week before I get out of here. Hold on, let me check on the Astros score real quick. Let me see here. Not going to make that mistake this time. Astros and the Phillies. Oh, hold on. MLB baseball scores. Damn, are they playing? What is this? Is the game on? Is the game on right now? Are they playing right now? Today. To be determined. What? Well, that's what my phone is saying. So don't blame it on me. But I'll say that. So I don't know if it's being rained out or what. But my phone is not showing. I don't know if they're playing right now. But they're supposed to play tonight, and they may be playing now. But my phone is not telling me that they're playing right now. But let me see real quick before I get out of here. NFL schedule.
The Eagles will play the Texans on Thursday at 7:15 p.m. On Sunday, the Packers will play the Lions at noon. The Bills will take on the
Hold on, man. Time out. Hold on. Okay, so the Eagles and the Texans, Packers and the Lions, Bills and the Jets. Jets lost a tough one right there. I mean, Zach Wilson, 3 interceptions, 3 costly interceptions. I'm talking about the Jets. The Jets are supposed to be riding high right now on what, like a 4-game winning streak, I think it is? 5-game winning streak? That's a game that they should have won this past weekend, losing that game to the Patriots right there. But, hey, that's the NFL for you. Any given Sunday, you never know what can transpire. What's this, man? Hold on right quick. I'm looking for, okay, the Eagles are the Texans. So the Eagles will be 8-0. Colts and the Patriots, who cares? Packers and the Lions, who cares? Division game. Chargers and the Falcons, interesting. Falcons have been better than a lot of people think, but Chargers should win that game. But they're still injured, though. Bills and the Jets, still a good game. Jets have been showing some resistance, but the Bills are the Bills. They're playing better than anyone at this point during the season. Again, the Super Bowl favorites. But I still like the Chiefs in that matchup if the weather is not permitting. I'll say it like that. Raiders and the Jaguars, and the Raiders. I mean, come on. You're talking about a disaster. Oh, my God. Being shut out 24-0. Are you kidding me? Dolphins and the Bears. I'll go with the Dolphins in that. Seahawks and the Cardinals. Cardinals, I mean, they're putting up a lot of gaudy numbers. You have DeAndre Hopkins, who caught 12 passes for over 160-something yards, and a loss. Titans and the Chiefs. I'm going to go with the Chiefs in that one. Chiefs at home. Titans, hey, nice story. I mean, hey, they play tough, and I get it. They play tough. But I'm going to go with the Chiefs in that one. But Ravens and the Saints. Now, the Ravens just acquired Roquan Smith. Their defense is getting healthy. Ravens, now they're starting to figure out some things on the defensive side of the ball, starting to get healthy. The offense is gelling somewhat even more. So I think the Ravens are only going to get better. I really do. I think they'll beat the Saints, even though they're playing in New Orleans. I really do think that. Let me see. Who's that the Raiders lost to? Saints 24-0. That's sad, bro. That's sad. But you want Josh McDaniels. Yeah, how's that working out? And so, yeah, we'll see. But, again, be on the lookout for that big-time game this weekend, obviously, with Tennessee and Georgia. Tennessee and those Georgia Bulldogs. And, hold on. Let Let me see something. I was talking about the Lakers earlier. Check this out. Stephen A. says the Lakers stink. I heard a clip the other day that I thought was so funny. Now he was talking about the Lakers. Now this was a couple years ago, but before I get out of here, I got to play this clip, man. And this is referring to the Lakers right here, how they are this year. And hold on real quick. Let me see. The sports court. Skrilla. I got to play this. Oh, man. Hold tight. Hold on.
You're not talking about a record.
Hold on.
The Lakers stink. Somebody has to say it. You're not talking about a record. I'm not acting like they're the worst team in the league. I'm not telling you they stink because they're bereft of talent. I'm saying they stink right now because guess what? The Lakers find a way to get your hopes up, and when you believe in them, it comes crashing down. They're the Grinches who stole Christmas.
The Grinches who stole Christmas.
Contaminating Hollywood.
Hey, Skrilla, he said the Lakers contaminating Hollywood. Man, that was classic right there. Hey, y'all. I got to get out of here. I got to go see what the Astros doing in the Phillies. I have to go see what that game is doing right now. Be back next week. The sports court. Legends live and let live. Roo, roo. Man, that nigga say. Oh, man. Man, they say Astros losing 5-0, bro.
So what?
I said they say Astros losing 5-0.